I was gonna say this is the part that is the hardest for me, but also helps the most. Like when we have to put it in to like the daily and weekly tasks. So
Oh yeah, actually breaking it down. I know. I know. It is a lot.
yeah, but once
I'm
I have it
super
done, it
excited.
makes things so much easier. So yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
definitely a good one to, like we talked about with the brain, right? It's like, okay, well, you've allotted some time to use your brain right now. Take care of it all. You know, it's gonna be tough. Don't expect too much of yourself afterwards. And then it'll make the rest of the quarter easier having this all broken down. So yeah, day three, the last day of boot camp for Q4. We are going to be breaking down those steps into small daily activities that we need to work on and learning how to prioritize what steps to focus on. We're also going to talk about defining our why for the goal and our thoughts that are fueling our goal. And then we're going to wrap up talking about next steps and accountability and how to make sure we're actually taking action on this wonderful plan that we've created. So just a little refresher, the 6 steps goal setting, we worked on the first 3 the last 2 days. Now we're going to work on the last 3, looking at your why, your mindset, and thoughts that you need to be working on and thoughts you need to let go. So we're going to revisit step 2 and 3 here real quick, right? Breaking it down into small, clear steps, taking those steps into individual tasks and then breaking them down into monthly, weekly, and daily activities. So that's what we're going to be focused on right now. Like Kelly just said, this is the kind of most labor intensive part, but it is really important, right? And just to remind you why, because your brain needs to conserve energy, right? And your brain also needs a break from decision making. And so spending time now to do this is going to help you when it comes time to actually take action on these steps that you've created. And again, to help with that willpower when you need it in the moment. And your monitor that of your brain that needs to know what progress you're making. So this is a great way to keep track of what your progress is and to make it small and doable so that you're not feeling too overwhelmed and your brain will actually help you, not hinder you in taking action. And then we talked about this a little bit yesterday, how to make things measurable and how to know our progress. One of the best ways to make sure that you have some sort of metric to know what you're doing is by coming up with these daily tasks, because daily tasks is a great way to show that you are accomplishing something, help your brain understand, get that dopamine hit, keep you moving forward. There are some other places where you'll want some metrics that can help. We talked about, not using money or subscriber counts or things like that as metrics, but more process metrics. And so we looked at a few of those yesterday, and now we're going to break down into individual tasks and activities you're going to want to revisit if you need some metrics for some of those as well. And also plan Bs. We want to make sure that we have some plan Bs. Some of these daily activities might need a plan B as well. Like we talked about making those if then statements, right? So that you've made the decision ahead of time what you're going to do if it doesn't work out, so that in the moment, you don't have to make that decision. You can just use the willpower you have to actually take action, right? So here we go. We're going to open up the workbook to page 11 through 13. Those are the pages that are individual for each month that are broken down into weekly and daily tasks. Since yesterday we broke it down into steps, you already kind of have your major steps, and now you can, take what you've looked at there and see, okay, what do I need to do monthly, each month. So there's 3 months there, right? And then what am I going to need to do weekly? And then what are those daily activities that I need to do? And don't forget about yesterday, we were talking about habits, and we looked at 4 small habits that you want to work on this quarter that are really going to be what you're using to build that trust in yourself and build that consistency. And you want to put those in there. And they should be, something you're doing, right, daily, or at least a few times a week, right? So you're going to want to put that on there. And I had you identify 4 yesterday, so I want you to just put 1 on there to start for 3 weeks, and then you can add the second one after 3 weeks. So we want to kind of give each one 3 weeks that you're working on. So by the end of the quarter, you will have accomplished all 4, but you need to give it each one time. to settle in. So don't forget to add those. And then, of course, on page 14 is where you can put in the plan Bs or benchmarks if there are some of these weekly or daily activities that could require those. So this is a big one. So I was going to give us 15 minutes if that sounds good for you guys to work on it. And then we'll come back and we'll talk about the why and the goal thoughts. Sound good? All righty. Alrighty, it's been 15 minutes. Were you guys able to get some good outline there? I know 15 minutes wasn't quite enough to get it all outlined, but
Well, I started just putting the dates in and like formatting it, and then it's easier to fill out, but I'm still on month one. I mean, I formatted all the months and then, now
That's
I-
exactly what I did.
yeah,
I'm like, I got a month planned, like, and then the rest, I just did the dates, and I'm like,
but
We'll
it
get
helps just having the dates helps. You're like, okay.
uh-huh.
Yeah.
that's good. So what are you feeling? Do you feel like you got 1 month planned? How does it feel? Do you feel like you've got realistic expectations there? Does it feel like you have too many things? What are you guys thinking?
Well, so far I've just punched in my um podcast, like edit, finish title, thumbnail, release the clips, like that stuff is mostly what's in there so far. And that's the stuff I've already been doing. So yes.
So you know you got that under control. Nice.
But yeah, I have to add more stuff. And then once I hit November, it's gonna be harder because my due date's the 15th, but I don't know.
Yeah, totally.
I don't know what's gonna happen in November. So we'll see.
Yeah. Well, and I think for you, it's like you've got some date specific stuff for the podcast for the month of October, but then after that, it's more like consistency stuff, right? So even if the baby comes, depending on when the baby comes, there's still things you probably want to be doing or thinking about weekly or something, right? That you can get in there.
Yes. So I haven't gotten there yet, but I will put those in.
Okay, nice. All right, let me get my notes back here. All right, so we of course that's a big step that will take more time to work on breaking down, but now we're going to move on into talking about your why for your goal and why this is important to help you prioritize and help you actually, take action. So the why behind your goal is the desire behind the goal, like your motivation, right? What is the real thing that lights you up and inspires you, that big picture stuff that'll help you to stay the course when things feel tough. And then the thought, that behind it is what you think having the goal will deliver. So it's about what you want to think and feel about yourself. And this can be kind of a sneaky one. So it's important to uncover it, right? Because sometimes we can make we think our goal will be about kind of giving us something that we need. Like I have an example for me. I've done a lot of athletic goals, right? Like hiking the John Muir Trail and climbing Mount Whitney, things like that. And for those, when it got difficult, I never made it mean anything. Like I wasn't cut out to hike it, right? I'd expected it to be difficult. Whereas with business goals, often my kind of worth and identity was a little more tied into the accomplishing of the goal. And so when it got difficult, I would make it mean something about me or my business, right? That it wasn't viable or something. So it's important to kind of identify these things. So we're going to break those down a little bit here. So first we'll just talk about defining the why. Again, why it's important is in those hard moments, you really need to be able to draw on why you're doing this, right? And be really clear about it. Because we talked about your brain really needs to understand exactly what it is that your goal is and why you're doing it. Sorry. We also talked about why it needs to be identity based, not process or outcome based, right? Because that's going to really help you to have that goal now, right? Have the accomplishment feeling now so that you could keep moving forward. The example of running is, the goal to be a runner, even if you're just running 1 mile today because you're so tired, you're still a runner instead of the goal of running a marathon. And you're like, well, crap, I only ran 1 mile today. That's not 26, right? It's just keeping your brain in alignment with what your goal is so that it'll allow you to take action and move forward. All right, and then the goal, like I said, the goal thought. What do you think having the goal is going to deliver? What do you think you're making the goal mean about you? And we really want to be careful with the goal thought, that it's not about like avoiding something or lack or getting out of something, right? You don't want your goal to be, to get out of debt or to, not feel a certain way, right? You want it to be about actually what can you have right now? Who can you be right now, right? And so some really common sneaky goal thoughts can be thinking, well, I want to make money in my business because when I make money, then I'll feel confident in myself. Or when I get out of debt, then I'm going to feel secure. Or when I have 10 clients, then I'll feel like my business is viable and will be successful. And you can see how that's a sneaky thought, right? Because you can't really build a business if you don't have the confidence first, right? You can't really believe in your business and build it if you don't think it's going to be successful, right? So you need to really identify, like, what are you really thinking about, and what do you really need to be working on right now to make sure that you're, not setting yourself up for failure from the beginning. And then just to bring it back to the brain, because I love to bring it back to the brain. This is important because identifying the why is really important to help your brain. One, because of dopamine, right? We learned about the brain uses dopamine to motivate, right? Not once you do the thing and get the dopamine. No, it's actually in the anticipation of the thing. It helps you motivate, right? So having a good why can really help you with that motivation in the brain. Then we also talked about the reticular activating system, the RAS, how that's your brain's filter. And your brain only allows in information that you've already given it attention to. So it's kind of directs your focus, right? And we learned that we have a negativity bias and an immediate return bias. So we really need our why to help our brain see what we really want to be focused on, right? And then the monitor also of your brain is the part of your brain that knows what your goal is, how much effort you're making, and whether it's worth pursuing or not. And so again, that's why we're focusing on the why, being more identity based to help your brain, your monitor, keep moving forward. So we're going to go to page 16 in the workbook, and we're going to work on the why. So there's 2 pages here. Page 16 is what is your why? There's some questions there that you can ask yourself to help you prompt you. And then the final question is, I think the most important, is asking yourself why you want this, and then asking that 7 times. So you say, why do I want this result? My example is to be home with my kids. Okay, well, why do you want to be home with your kids? To show them they're my number one priority. Why do you want to show them that they're my number one priority? Because I don't want to miss one thing while they're young. Why don't you want to miss one thing while you're young? Right? You get it? Like going like that. So even if you guys have done this before, I think it's always important to revisit it and think about it again as things have changed throughout the year and focuses and stuff like that. And then page 17 is visualizing your why. So once you've kind of done that first exercise, then you can sit down and you write something in the present tense about what it would feel like, the who, what, where, when, and why of accomplishing your goal, so that you can really feel the get in touch with that and feel that. And then, sorry, what page is it? Lost my page. Yeah, that was page 16. 17 is visualize your why, and the goal thought, defining your goal thought. What do you think having the goal will deliver to you? What are you making the goal mean about you? So we're going to spend some time with all 3 of these activities, defining your why, visualizing it, and then thinking about the goal thought. And like I said, even though you might have done this before, this is a really good activity to come back to and revisit and think about again. So I'll give you guys 5 minutes and we'll do that. Right? Alrighty. So I feel like that exercise is always an interesting one, right? Thinking about why you're really doing this goal, what you're really looking for in all of this. All right, so now, oops, with this one. Now we're gonna talk a little bit about thoughts that you need to have and thoughts that you need to let go of. And this is the other important step when it comes to goal setting, is recognizing, like, we identified why we want to do this. Now we want to look at some of the thoughts that might be holding us back. So we talked a little bit about the brain and the reticular activating system, but another part that's important to understand is that, you know, because it is your brain's filter, and it tells your brain what to focus on. It, in essence, is what creates your reality, right? Because it's only allowing you to see the things that it's allowing you to see. And your brain doesn't actually know what's true and what's not true. It just knows what you tell it. And so we can tell our brain a new story if we need to. And we need to recognize what stories we're already telling it and what we're telling it to focus on, and see if we need to get it to focus on something else. So I've created this activity I call To Be or Not to Be. And it is for goal setting. It's really important to recognize what your future self is that you're looking for, right? Because when you're trying to accomplish a goal, especially a big goal, it's not really about the achievement of the goal, or the idea that the grass is greener on the other side. It's about who you have to be to get the goal, right? We always think about the action, and once we've accomplished the goal, it's that, but really it's about who you have to be to get there, right? Because again, the future only exists in your mind. And so you have to create a different result in your mind first so that you can achieve the goal. So without you realizing, your brain is just moving you forward into your future by doing the things it already knows how to do, right? Because your brain just wants to save energy and stay alive at all costs. So that means taking the path of least resistance, doing the things that you've already been doing, not changing, right? And so this means you can really be stuck in the same old ways of doing things unless you tell your brain to do something new. So the idea here is that you really have to give up your old self, the self that you are now, right? Because the person you are now isn't the person that has the goal. You need to start working on becoming the person who already has the goal, so that you can, have the thoughts of the person that already has the goal, so that then you can take the action. So an example of this is thinking about, okay, if you want to be a successful business owner, what do you think a successful business owner thinks about and spends all their time focusing on and tells their brain what to focus on, right? So is it thinking about how bad the economy is, how there are so few clients, how new businesses struggle, how, they don't have all their systems set up and how they need to work on this. And then what actions is that going to cause? That's going to cause, you to be in fear, to not take action, to not have new business, right? Whereas maybe if you think about somebody who already has a successful business, they're probably not thinking about how few clients there are and getting new clients. They're probably thinking about how grateful they are for the clients they have, how better to serve their clients, how they want to have, how they can grow new partnerships and business and stuff like that. And so that the actions that's going to produce are really different, right? New ways to serve your clients, new ways to service, probably open to more new things, right? Another example of this is like when you think about if you're trying to lose weight, what does somebody who's already at their goal weight think about? They probably aren't thinking at all about food and diet and things like that. They're probably thinking about, the confidence and what they want to wear in their body and how good they feel, right? And so if you're trying to be somebody who loves and has confidence in your body through focusing so much on restricting and what you're eating, that's not going to work, right? Because you've got to have the thoughts of the person that already has your goal. Does that make sense? We went through this a little bit, Kelly, in the past with the dating, right? Where it was, you have to give up all the thoughts of somebody being single. If you want to be in a relationship, you got to give up all those thoughts of somebody who's being single, because you're constantly going to be finding more evidence for that instead of thinking those thoughts that somebody who already has the goal that you want to have. So we'll do the exercise, the to be or not to be exercise on page 18. So the best way to do this is to create an alter ego. So if you think about either somebody, you know, a real person that has the goal that you have or the business that you have, you write from their perspective, or you can just make up an alter ego of somebody who has the kind of goal and business you want. And then you just think about, okay, how do they spend their day? What do they think about? What do they do? And so you can write it, you know, say, you know, she goes here, she does this, she thinks about that. And then when you're done writing the paragraph, go back in there and change all the pronouns to I. I do this, I think this, I do that. And then at the bottom of the page, there are two spots, one for thoughts you need to work on and one for thoughts you need to let go of. And from looking at this paragraph you've created of what a successful, you know, whatever organizer or successful podcaster does and thinks, you can see what thoughts maybe you have that you need to let go of or stop focusing on, and what thoughts you should be practicing. Does that make sense? Yeah. Okay. So I'll give you guys 5 minutes to do this exercise, and then we will wrap things up. Okay. All right. Let's come back. So how was that activity? Did you get any insights from thinking about that, thinking about it from somebody else's perspective?
Definitely. And I feel like sick and panicked over the thoughts that I need to release. Like it's crazy how like physiologically that stuff affects you. And so yeah, it was hard stirring that shit up, but like so important to have it in front of you. So then, you know, you can flip it or it doesn't match at all what I had for my alter ego. So definitely. And I could see how both are true, how I like live in this one that's really limiting. And so I'm like, yeah, like it makes me sick, but I still like sort of believe. I mean, definitely I believed it, but I also could see the alter ego part where it's like organizing is a line of work that like everyone expresses interest in and values. Like there's no shortage of clients. I love meeting new clients, blah, blah, blah. And then the thoughts to release were like opposite of that. And I'm like, it's the mind is crazy. Like whatever you look at is true. You know, both things can be true. So
Yeah, for sure. And of course, you've been practicing those thoughts for so long. Of course, you're going to be scared to let them go and it's going to be difficult. And that's where it can be helpful to create like a ladder thought. So if it's too hard for you to go to believing that, you know, everyone wants organizers and it's a, you know, a great viable business, if that feels too hard, you know, then you might want to try something a little more neutral, like I'm willing to believe that everybody does, or some people really
Mhm.
find organizing valuable, or something like that, that can feel a little less of a jump for you to start working on and practicing. Because you can't just go from one complete way of thinking to another, right? You got to find something in the middle that can lead you to that thought. Does that make sense?
That makes sense.
Yeah, because if you just try to make that jump, your brain's going to still be like, I don't believe that.
If it's
Right?
helpful,
Yeah.
there are people out there like me who hate organizing. Like I hired an organizer last fall, a friend of mine in LA who does it. And like, thank God for her. Thank God for you. Like some of us hate it.
Oh,
So
thank you. I
you are
love it.
very necessary and wanted.
Thank you so much.
Well, right, and it's good. I go through this. Allie and I talk about this a lot. That you probably deal with this, Megan. The thought of like it comes easily to you organizing, so you think, is it really something that's hard for people? I don't have that much value. And Allie and I talk about this all the time with coaching, where you kind of forget that other people don't know what you know, and that certain
Mhm.
things are different for So it's like so easy for you and your brain to be like, I'm not telling them anything new. This isn't that helpful, and it's like, oh wait, no. For some people, this is really radical, right? Yeah.
I
Yeah.
totally agree. That's what I was gonna say too.
Yeah, it's definitely something you can get caught up in a lot, right? It's like you get so stuck in your own head and your own thoughts that you're like, doesn't everyone know this? Yeah.
And to be able to present it in a palatable way, like that is such an art too, and to not overwhelm, like, yeah,
Yeah, that's true too.
you
Remembering,
make it friendly.
yeah, that too, for sure. Okay, well, the final piece of this is, of course, you've got some work to do to finish fleshing out your 3-month plan, but I think you've got a really good start. You guys have a good sense of what you need to be working on and how to move forward. Don't forget those small steps, working on those to really build consistency. No matter what else you do on your plan that you have for the week, which is great, make sure you're building that consistency and trust with yourself with those small little habits, because those are going to really help you in the long run to build your confidence in taking steps other places. And they're going to move you forward. But the last piece of this, of course, is accountability, right? And taking action. We've made the plan, but now we need to actually make sure that we take the action. So how do we make sure that we take the action? So the best way to make sure you take action is find some way to be accountable. So the first step is writing it down, right? We've already done that. We've written it down. We have it somewhere. It's not just in our heads. So we have some way to look and say, did we do it or did we not? That's a great first step. Saying it out loud, sharing it with a friend, share it on social media, something like that can really help as well for accountability. Joining a mastermind is great. Kelly, Allie, and I do a mastermind, and it's amazing to be able to check in weekly to make sure hold each other accountable and also, bounce ideas off each other. I also am doing every week on Facebook and Instagram Live on Thursdays at 11, do accountability check-ins. You can check in with me there if you'd like to help with the accountability. That's also a great way to do it. And then I've decided for the end of the year, I'm going to offer accountability, like a small accountability coaching package. Oh, excuse me, that could really help finish out the year, lock in these goals so that you can start 2026 off, at a much further pace, farther ahead of where you could be otherwise. So what I'm offering is a 6 weeks of accountability. We'll just do like a 60-minute coaching session where we can review the boot camp plan that you made, clarify it a little bit, break it down into your priorities, spot some of the roadblocks and things. And then 6 weeks of accountability check-ins. So we'll just use Slack to check in once a week, make sure you're taking action, staying on track, keeping you moving forward. And like I said, actually taking action. And then my second option is, the VIP upgrade. So instead of just accountability, we're also going to include some coaching. So same thing, the 60-minute check-in, our first 60-minute session to make sure you've got your boot camp draft all set up. And then we'll do bi-weekly coaching check-ins where we'll do 20 minutes of coaching on Zoom just to go over some of those resistance and issues that you're having, recalibrate some of the stuff when necessary, keep that momentum going. And then, of course, the Slack check-ins weekly to make sure you're taking your steps that you need to take. And then you'll have access on Slack anytime with me to ask questions and work on more accountability. So that's what I'm going to offer for the end of the year, because I think that a lot of people need just that little bit of push, that little bit of help, not, some huge plan or anything like that, just a way now that you've made your 3-month plan to actually have some accountability and actually take action. So I will be sending out an email at the end of this with a link for information on the accountability coaching. And then of course, a replay of this call if you need to look back at it, do it again. But just want to say thank you guys so much for joining me. Does anybody have any questions or any comments that they want to make about anything? Yeah.
One question, sorry. You said your weekly accountability is at 11, but I
Yeah.
think the slide said
You're right.
10.
It's 10. It's at 10. This was at
So
11.
it's
Thank you.
okay.
It is
So
at
10
10.
o'clock
Yeah.
for that.
Yes,
So-
it's at 10.
Okay.
Good call.
Cool.
I know I got confused all week that I said this was at 11, but everything else I do is always at 10. And it's like
Okay.
10. Thank you.
All right.
Good call. Well, thank you guys so much for joining me. I really appreciate you guys coming, and I hope that this has been really beneficial. And I can't wait to hear how things are going with your goals.
Thank you, Amanda.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Nice
Yeah.
to meet you, Megan.
Yeah, nice to meet you guys.
Yeah. Bye, Allie. Bye, everyone.
Bye.